Hey, welcome to Criterion Connection. I'm Joe,
And I'm not Wade. I'm Scott.
and we're here to talk about another Wes Anderson film. This is one that came out a few years ago, had a lot of Oscar buzz, and won a lot of awards, and it's The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah, and I told you this years ago. I used to work at Target, and I remember when this movie came out on DVD, and a guy came in, and he bought it, and now keep in mind, I didn't know anything about this movie other than commercials on TV, so I saw no implication at all that there was food involved in it, and he described the movie to me as delicious. Now, having seen the movie, I still don't know what he meant. So, if you could in the comments section down below, please tell me or give me some idea of what he could mean by saying this movie is delicious. I mean, there was some cake involved.
Yeah, Mendel's.
But
yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't know what he meant. I mean, it was it was a pretty fun movie. Considering where I was with Royal Tenenbaums, I can honestly say of the two Wes Anderson movies I've watched and probably will ever watch, this is the best one.
Yeah, I thought the movie was all right.
Really,
Yeah.
I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought this was like a very fun movie. I had a great time actually.
Yeah, this is certainly, it's not my favorite of Wes Anderson's movies that I've seen. And I've seen a few more as we done on the channel.
Yeah, you can hear his thoughts on those. Just go through the channel. Oh, and subscribe too.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not bad. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think like it's not a movie I disliked like some of his other ones. I just, I find myself going, let's go. And it happens a lot with his movies where I'm just like, man, this first act is really dragging.
I didn't think it dragged that much.
I did find the setup a little unique, where you have Jude Law as a writer getting a story from the owner of Grand Budapest Hotel, who then goes into the history.
You forget one thing. It's the guy who wrote the book telling us the story
Right.
of him hearing the story
Right.
from the guy who currently runs the Grand Budapest Hotel.
But yeah, for me, some of the jokes don't quite land. It's like you just sit there and you go, that's a joke.
There were some that like I chuckled more on the inside than I did on the outside. There were a few laugh out loud moments though, which I can't believe. For me, it would have to be like at the beginning when like his kid's acting up while he's trying to tell you about the book, and just that whole thing, like, especially when the kid apologizes. I'm sorry. I thought that was actually pretty funny. I chuckled audibly at that one. I really liked the part where Gustav, right? Ray Fiennes' character.
Yep.
He's hanging from the glacier. He's hanging from the rock or the ice, and Willem Dafoe's character is like he's stomping on it to break it,
Yeah.
and it's very dramatic. And he's in this mode where like he knows he's gonna die,
Yeah.
and he's just being very poetic and being very. And all of a sudden, Zero just shoves Willem Dafoe off the mountain,
Yeah.
and it's done with expert timing. It's
Yeah.
so funny. But my favorite scene in the whole movie that just really had me going was the scene where he had to call in a favor to I forget the name of the it was like a secret society. It was like the Two Keys or something. And so like it was like in order for it to go down, he had to call somebody who had to call somebody who had to call somebody. So they would call someone from like one hotel, and they're doing something like I think one guy was doing CPR, another was like testing out a suit. Like they were all doing something very important, and they would always get the phone call and then take over, and then their lobby boy would just take over.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing about it is just the lobby boys are just as good as the person who was called.
Yeah.
And it's just a seemingly never-ending chain until you get to the last guy who, if you're a Seinfeld fan, would know he's the guy who asked George Costanza if he got a good look when they're looking at the cleavage.
Yeah. There's moments, but for me, it always takes a while for the movie to start really going.
Yeah, he definitely has a pace, I've noticed, having seen only 2 movies.
Yeah.
So, of course I'm an expert.
Yeah.
That's why they call me I expert. But he definitely does have like a pace.
Mhm.
I think depending on, I don't want to say the quality, but just I think a combination of the story being told and how easy it is to focus on what you're supposed to focus on, I think make the pacing easy. Like I think what made this movie more enjoyable for me, even the pacing, was the fact that even though yes, you to an extent had the ensemble cast which he's known for, you had your major players like your Jason Schwartzman, you had your Bill Murray, you had your Owen Wilson, you had these people, but they were in such small roles that you don't even really care or notice all too much, except to say, oh hey, that's so and so. So, but then you have like this very like finite focus on Gustav and Zero. They're the only people you really need to focus on aside from like your villains.
Yeah.
And because you have that, it makes the story and the pacing so much easier because they really do have an interesting bond because it starts off he's Zero's the lobby boy. Gustav doesn't really like him because he didn't hire him. He doesn't even know why he's there. Mm-hmm. But then like they just build this respect and this friendship and this brotherhood that it just feels genuinely nice and sweet. And I found myself, like rooting for them as they're going on to all these things. Like when he gets wrongfully accused, I'm like, come on, man, they got to get him out of jail, man. It's like I can't believe I'm saying this about a Wes Anderson movie, but he actually made characters I cared about.
Yeah, and he does, and he's able to pull that off in most films that I've seen of his. There's always like that focus, and there's real care given to building a relationship, and that's
right.
And that I think is what slows down first acts for me. He takes that time and deliberately does that.
Right.
What I think makes it work better in this film is Gustav's and Zero. They're always urgent.
Yes.
They're always very on the nose, like very fast, always on time. Like you need to provide for your guests before they know what they need.
Right.
Like, and that's kind of how it's hurry up all the time.
Right.
But I just feel that there's a lot that you can. I feel like he can get more for less out of his first act.
Right. Yeah, and also like I found that the main characters are like genuinely likable characters. Mm-hmm. They're not all that interesting as far as like who they are, mm-hmm. but the way they're presented, the way they present themselves mm-hmm. makes them likable. Even someone like a Gustav who could easily come off very smug and mm-hmm. arrogant and just a horrible person, he does come off likable because at his core he cares about other people. Granted, to a somewhat sleazier extent, he treats all the guests with the utmost like love and loyalty, no matter how old they are or what have you. And you sense it not just in how he runs the hotel, but also his relationship with Zero.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's the big misconception of Gustav in the film is for the plot. Because this actually has a plot for a Wes Anderson film, which we could debate whether or not how necessary the plot is, but
I would say in this one it's pretty necessary because for no other reason than in the world of this movie it's a book. You know what I mean? So I would think it would definitely be important because that'd be a really terrible book if it didn't.
So what happens is we're following Gustav, the concierge of the world-renowned Grand Budapest Hotel.
Right.
And the lobby boy gets swept up in this. Because of how Gustav treats all his guests, there's an old countess early on who ends up dying.
Who I didn't realize was played by Tilda Swinton until I looked at the IMDb afterwards, and I was very impressed.
Yeah. And he genuinely cares about his guests. Which he states over and over again that he cares about them, even though it seems like he doesn't. He's very callous when he describes it. He's very professional all the time. but he genuinely does. And he goes to her funeral only to find out that she's leaving him something in the will, and her family doesn't like him for it because they think he doesn't care about her, that he just kind of used her, he conned her.
Well, and they specifically want it. They all want it.
And they all want this particular painting.
Was it Boy Holding Apple or Boy with Apple?
Boy with Apple.
Boy with Apple.
And
ugly damn painting. I'm sorry.
It's a masterpiece. Everything else in here is junk.
Of garbage.
And what ends up happening is he knows that the kids don't want him to have it, and he takes it because he knows she wanted him to have it.
Well, he steals it, he takes it, but I mean, it was bequeathed to him. So,
right.
I mean,
and he takes it, absconds, and then basically the rest of the film is centered around the family trying to get the painting back, and they set him up for murder.
And possibly kill him.
Yeah.
We don't know it. We don't know if it would have stopped with just getting the painting back.
Right.
And can we talk real quick? You mentioned trying to kill or killing people. Can we talk about how violent this movie actually is?
It gets
like,
that way, yeah.
Like Jeff Goldblum gets his fingers cut off. The one guy's sister gets her head cut off, and the effect looked very good.
Jeff Goldblum gets killed too.
He does get killed, but I'm talking about but then fingers, man.
Yeah.
So many people get shot and stabbed. I know
Dafoe's character, he's still like a brute in this.
Yeah, like I know I'm sure I'm missing stuff, but like it's surprising. I don't know if any of his other movies are this violent.
They can insinuate a degree of violence, yeah.
Yeah, but how much does he show? Like, he showed some in this one. Also, between the two I saw, this was probably the most profanity-ridden one that he's done.
He doesn't always hold back.
I'm just saying, a lot of F word, a lot of S word, little bit of the other F word, which I didn't think was necessary.
Right.
I don't, just like the use of the unnecessary racism in Royal Tenenbaums, I didn't really understand why we needed unnecessary homophobia in this one. Because he tries to play it off, they play it up like, oh, well, he's bisexual. Didn't need to be there. That's the one thing I'm like, didn't need to be there. Wes, stop doing that. I hope you did. Please stop.
And there is the one part that's great because it leads you to believe that he's covering it up. When Zero comes and visits him, and he has the two black eyes.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh no, I got into a fight with Pinky and I beat the shit out of him."
Yeah.
And it turns out like he actually becomes friends with Pinky.
Yeah.
and towards later in his jail sentence. But here's something that surprised me.
That I enjoyed this?
No. What really surprised me is I know how Wes can be with color palettes and stylish shots.
Yes.
This movie has less of it than I expected.
Yes, but what he does do it with, I think, works.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why I prefer this to Royal Tenenbaums is because it's hard to tell if he's creating a fictional world or if it's his version of the real world. It's kind of muddled in that. In this one, like everything from the scenery, the outdoors to the insides of buildings, everything feels like this is like a completely different, like this isn't even America or Europe or what have you. This is like a completely different, it's almost like we're on another planet with the use of the colors and things of that nature. The interiors, I think he really figured out that like right amount of like how much color to use and when to use it.
Yeah.
But also the dark moments. I don't mean dark like I can't think of the word, but you know what I mean when I say dark.
Like evil.
Yeah, not like dark
malevolent.
like evil, but dark like literally like the lighting.
Yeah.
I thought they were also very well done in their own way. They were it was really interesting because in a lot of them like it's all dark, but you can still see like the silhouettes of everything. So everything you need to see in that moment is there, and it looks really nice. Like it was definitely a well-made movie as far as the visuals go. I thought every character was played perfectly. Like I don't think you could replace any character with a different actor and get the same result.
Yeah, and and the piggyback off of that, like there's again what we always associate with Wes Anderson is that really quirky character.
Right.
Everybody has quirks, but they're just it's he hit the sweet spot on this one.
Because they're not
held back enough.
Because they're not out there like they are in some of his other movies. He comes up with a character in this one. He came up with characters and just let them be.
Yeah.
And I think that's what like they felt more natural in this one than I anticipated based on like trailers and things like that.
Right.
And like I said, I thought it was a fun little adventure movie. Especially, you know, I like the idea of like the two people going on an adventure and, you know, and again, the friendship was just really nice. It basically felt like a buddy road trip movie without the road trip.
Yeah. And I that's a hint. I was going to ask Scott, what did you think overall? And would you recommend Grand Budapest Hotel to other viewers?
I surprisingly really enjoyed this. I did not think I would like a Wes Anderson movie. Not enough to where I'm like, I want to watch other Wes Anderson movies. I like this movie. I like this world. And unless there's a Grand Budapest Hotel 2, which I doubt that'll ever happen because I don't think he does sequels or intends to. I think I'm good. I think I'm done with Wes Anderson. I think I've seen all I need to see, but I really enjoyed this one. And in all honesty, I think I would recommend it. I think this is one of those few movies of his that I think, just like, you know, John or Jane Q public could watch this movie and get something out of it and not feel like, oh, this is like, you know, artsy fartsy crap. You know, I think people could watch it and be like, oh, this is pretty interesting. It's pretty unique, pretty cool. So, yeah, I highly recommend it. I think anybody could enjoy it.
And you know what? I'm actually, though it didn't impress me that much, and other movies have impressed me, and I said no, I'm going to say yes for this one. I think this is a very approachable Wes Anderson film. I think you get just enough of that quirk. You get just enough of that stylish set dressing with the colors and the symmetry or asymmetry he likes to play with. And it's not too far out there of a story. I think people can follow along and understand what's going on. And I think it's an enjoyable film for most people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better.
All right. Well, what's your views on Grand Budapest Hotel? What do you think about other Wes Anderson films? This is the conclusion of Wes Anderson month. So we're gonna ease off on any Wes Anderson films for a while,
and I won't do them. So
if you have any suggestions, please let us know. Put a comment down below, or like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you like the channel and you want to see more. And if you have subscribed, maybe hit the bell if you want a notification anytime we post a new video. And refer a friend. Definitely. Why not? Word of mouth is what spread the word of this channel. So keep doing that. Keep sharing with your friends. Let's just keep talking about movies, man. Yeah, and throw some suggestions out. Definitely. And specifically, if you think there's one that you want me specifically to do, mention that too. Mention I want Scott to do this one, and I'll do it. I mean, I'll probably hate it, but I'll do it just because I love you. But yeah, and thanks for watching, and see you next time. This is Criterion Connection. I'm still Joe, and I'm Forever Scott. And we'll see you later.